Yes, David, I can see your screen. But it's showing 3 sections, eh?
Yeah.
Display the, okay.
I'm trying to change that a bit. So that you guys can actually see the right part of things. That's fine. Rather, let's do this.
It's still loading. You can unload and reload again. Yeah, now that's okay. That's okay. That's okay.
Yes, I'm hoping you guys can see my screen, Sasa.
Okay, it's flickering. Maybe you can undo with your video and just share the screen. You can just share the screen.
Yeah, that's what I am. That's fine now. Kindly confirm.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, thank you. Apologies for the technical hiccups. So my name is David Omasete. I'm a cybersecurity consultant with iLab Africa, and I also do research for information security and cybersecurity at large. So basically, I do trainings for EC Council. That is trainings to do with cybersecurity. Talking of training such as CHFI, that is computer handling and forensic investigator. CH, certified ethical hacker, also provided by EC Council. I also do trainings for checkpoint and digital forensics aspects here and there. So part of the certifications that I have or I hold at the moment include CHFI, which I am certified to train, CEH, certified ethical hacker, which I'm also certified to train, a certified EC Council invigilator. I'm a checkpoint cyber certified security administrator, and I also hold a PCB certificate on ISO 27002, the latest version, lead manager. Yeah. So in a nutshell, I like cybersecurity and everything cybersecurity, basically working hands-on, imparting knowledge of what I have encountered, what I have learned, and also train here and there. Yeah, I also do research in different aspects of cybersecurity that will at least help build a better ecosystem online to ensure that each and every one of us is ideally safe when it comes to browsing our networks, when it comes to different aspects of cybersecurity, basically. So on my socials, that is my email. I'll actually share any more details as we go on. But today we want to talk about, so this training, we're gonna discuss 4 different aspects, broken over the 4 different days, ideally. So today we want to start and discuss about ICT. Basically, where were we back then? Where are we right now? How has the transition affected us from where we were to where we are? We want to understand some concepts here and there on ideally what is ICT, what is cybersecurity, how does the transition from where we didn't have ICT to right now where we have it affect us in the cybersecurity space and all. Then we shall also do an overview of ICT, basically, definitions and importance. Then a little bit of the objectives. Why do we need cybersecurity, maybe? Why do we need ICT? Why do we as a public sector ideally want to move from the paper filing system that some of us still use to where we are at the moment? Then we shall discuss a little bit of introduction to emerging technologies and the implications to various industries, like communication industry and all. Then integrating understanding the integration of technology into business and potential risks, just a highlight for today. Then tomorrow we shall dive right into cybersecurity, basically, and have a feel of how can we be attacked in the cyberspace? How can we ensure that we use the internet, or how can we basically ensure that at the end of the day we use the network or the internet safely, so that we don't up oversharing details that can be used to maybe compromise our security online and all. What are some of the attacks that we should be looking out for that can be used for us or against us, ideally? And then couple it with how do we ensure that we are bulletproof when it comes to such aspects, not only in our organizations, but also at home, ideally, with our phones, with our laptops, with our tablets back at home. How do we ensure that our kids are actually safe? They are not being bullied, what we call cyberbullying and all. So this is what we shall be talking about tomorrow when we talk about cybersecurity and its impact to society. The third day, we will be diving right into emerging technologies, and we'll talk about all the emerging technologies that are coming up. We're going to talk about Meta. We're going to talk about wireless network realization. We're going to talk about quantum computing. We shall talk about different aspects such as IoT, that is Internet of Things. How does it affect us? What is the impact and all? Then to cap up the training on day 4, we're going to talk about how do we ensure, or what are the best practices ideally for us engaging all these things that we have learned, from taking up technology and ICT to ensuring that the technology that we take up are ideally secure in cybersecurity. Then for the emerging technologies that are coming up, because I know at one point we shall actually, we are going to have it. We are going to have emerging technologies. They are coming and they are coming, and we cannot refuse. So how do we ensure that we maneuver? What are the best practices for us to say, yes, we can ideally take this emerging technology because it favors us as a company, it favors us as individuals, and ensure that we are safe even when we pick those emerging technologies, and we ensure that our stakeholders at the end of the day feel safe when we make changes. Yeah, ideally the change management structure and what we need to do to ensure that everyone is comfortable with it. As we start, just as Simon actually said, feel free to ask any questions in the chat. Feel free to stop me if you don't understand anything. I'll always head back and try to understand. Feel in to chip in if you feel like you know something that I might not have given, because I'm also here to learn as I give you what I have already. So feel free to utilize the chat and the QA basically, and we see how to go about that. So before I start, I like checking out any Q&A. I can see there is none, so I am hoping you guys will share your. I am hoping you guys will share. Oh, thank you. I am hoping you guys will share your objectives so that while I am working on the things I'm working on, I will focus on whatever you guys want us to discuss at the end of the day. Yes. So I am hoping we are together. Just give me a thumbs up or a yes on the chat so that I know.
Now we are together. I think you can raise your voice a bit. I can see some 2 hands up. Let me just check who these are. We have Daudi Mwanyika and James Kodosi. Daudi, you can. Yeah, I can see 5 people. Their hands are up. It means they are together. So David, I think you can raise your voice a bit. Otherwise, I think people are following. You can proceed.
Yeah, thank you. So I think from Bernard Matu, will there be lab exercises? Because of the nature of what we're doing, we might not have lab exercises, but we'll have a lot of videos to impart more knowledge on what I'll actually discuss. And the objective is ideally to get the latest software and systems cybersecurity. I'll try as much as possible to do that. Yeah. So thank you for that. We can ideally start. Yeah. So what is ICT? Yeah, that's the question we're asking. So ICT is ideally all communication technologies that enable users to either access, retrieve, store, transmit, and manipulate information in a digital form. So ideally, anything that we use that will enable us to, at the end of the day, access information, retrieve any information. Do we want to store it? Do we want to transmit it? Do we want to manipulate any form of digital information? What will give us what we call ICT. So it's ideally the use of internet, the use of wireless networks. We're talking about cell phones, which are nearly everyone nowadays have computers, any softwares that we will be installing in the computers, social networking. In this case, we are talking about all our social networks, including Instagram, Facebook, be it WhatsApp, yeah, and all this will actually be termed as ICT, part of ICT. In 2020, when COVID hit, we actually realize that we can actually work without having to meet each other physically for us to actually work, learn, have meetings and all. And we came up with video conferencing, which also became part of the ICT structure and family. So at the end of the day, we are saying ICT is anything that helps us ensure that we communicate well. Yeah. So with the emergence of ICT, we are going to see in a bit, it brought good things and bad things. Yeah. So before we actually came to the technological era, yeah, we had what we called non-technological era, ideally, where we used to send messengers from here to wherever you wanted your information to go. Then we actually upgraded and we came with posters. Yeah. In cases where you wanted to send your message or your letter, you had to post it, wait for it to get to the other side in a week, maybe, depending on the distance. Then from the other side, you do the same thing. They send and you wait. Yeah. With this, it actually brought good things for us. Yeah. Right now, you can talk to someone from here to in Europe very easily and all, and it made things easier. Now, on the flip side of it is that it also made things worse, because one is people became lazy. We're gonna see that in a few. Information actually became a target of people and everything. And we're gonna see that in a few. Yeah. So basically, ICT comprises of three aspects. Yeah, that is information, and information in this case we are saying is any organized data or classified data which has meaningful value to the receiver. Yeah. So any data that is sent, yeah, that has meaning to either you or your company, or to the intended person to whom you're sending it to, is termed as information. So in this case, if you're sending data from person A to person B, maybe let's say from yourself to your boss, and an attacker actually gets to intercept that information and it becomes useful to them, that also is classified as data, yeah, as information ideally. Yeah. So data is anything and everything. Then information in this case becomes from all the data that is there, all the digital aspects, the files, the folders, the pictures, the videos, and all that are out there in the digital form, digital platforms and formats. If it makes meaning to you or your company, then it becomes information. And in that regard, at the end of the day, you'll need to safeguard it. Yeah. So for information to be termed as good, for information to be termed as valuable, yeah, it needs to have three aspects. Yeah. So it needs to be timely. That is, it is available when required. Yeah. It needs to be accurate. Yeah. So, and it needs to be complete. Yeah. So these three aspects that form valuable or meaningful information, yeah, we shall see when we get to introduce cybersecurity that they have an aspect to them that will, at the end of the day, ensure cybersecurity is actually achieved. Yeah, but cybersecurity also needs to have its timeliness, which is what we will call availability, accurate, which we will call integrity, and completeness is also one aspect of it. Yeah. So we have different tools that will help us transmit this information. Ideally, they include telephones, televisions, radios, and all. When it comes to cybersecurity, as we're gonna see in a few, there will be two aspects to information ideally. Yeah. So there is the aspect of securing the information in and by itself. Yeah. And there is the aspect of securing the asset. Thank you. Someone was unmuted. Yep, thank you. Kindly help me mute so that we don't have friction. Thank you. So ideally, we have different tools that transmit this information from one point to the other. And we're talking about telephones, televisions, we're talking about radios. Right now we have machines, laptops, we have phones, yeah, that transmit all this information. So that will bring to us the aspect of two things that we're gonna appreciate. One is basically what we call information security, which basically deals with only the information. It does not care what tool that you're using to actually transmit that information from point A to point B. And we have the other aspect that we are calling cybersecurity, which now deals, which is a smaller version of information technology that deals mostly with the gadgets that we use, yeah, to transmit this information from point A to point B. The other aspect to this would be communication. And communication in this case, we are terming it as the act of sending or receiving data from one point to the other. Yeah. So it is basically the process whereby information is exchanged between individuals using symbols, signs, verbal interaction, and all. Back in the day, before we actually got to the digital world, we had the same way. We had different ways of communication. Yeah, and this is what built up to what we have today. Yeah, so where we had messengers, we tried as much as possible ensure that we reduced the time. Yeah, where we are saying information is actually valuable if it's timely. Yeah, so time was of an essence, and it prompted people to want and get information very fast. Yeah, so we created, for instance, posters. I can use that as a very good example of an intermediate. Yeah, so posters had the aspect of the previous or the original way of communication before the technological era. But it was a bit faster, which means your information became a bit more timely and reliable. Yeah, because in this case, you are sure if you send your information with poster, if you had well included the aspect of who's supposed to access the information, then they will get it. Yeah. Which gave us the aspect of completeness, yeah, because it will actually get to the other point. But the issue was the accuracy aspect of it. You were never sure the information that you're sending from point A will be the information that will be received at point B, because it changed hands from one point to the other. Someone might have intercepted it and read it and closed it again and sent it. Yeah. So that aspect of communication back then is ideally what prompted us to come up with what we have in the technological space, because we wanted something that is, one, timely. Two, we wanted something that is accurate. That's to say, information that I send from my machine or from myself to someone else will actually reach to them when it was accurate. Whatever I had said here is whatever they get. Yeah. And 3, it was complete. Yeah. It doesn't have it doesn't get to a point where the information is not understandable because maybe there is something that is missing. Yeah. So this is what prompted IT communication, and ideally it came with aspects of ethical issues here that we're gonna discuss as to why we get to a point of we need cybersecurity. Yeah. So just a background on it. Was it during the Second World War? Yeah, I think. So actually decided to come up with new ways of ensuring information reached from point A to point B, that is from the command center to their troops in the field accurately and timely and everything. Yeah. So they actually tasked scientists and they came up with what we call Morse code. Yeah. So Morse code was one of the first aspects of the digital communication that we had because it was easier. Yeah. But the thing was, it was being intercepted. Someone could intercept the Morse code as it was being transported, transformed, or sent from one point to the other and change it. So as it continued, they actually came up with internet, and ideally the internet that brought us to where we are brought up the issues because it was ideally between organizations, big organizations such as schools to maybe government to the different aspects. Yeah. So these are some of the things that led us to wherever we are. Yeah. And the ethical aspects of how do we ensure that someone's information is not, for instance, leaked, or the information we are sharing from point A to point B in our companies and get to the intended person who's supposed to be actually getting it in a timely manner and ensuring there is integrity aspect of it. Yeah. So that's why we are wherever we are today. Yeah. So there are different types of communication, and this also relates to why a criminal or a hacker in this case will want to attack you or not. Yeah. So the first type of communication is basically simplex or simplex communication, and this allows information to be sent in one direction. Yeah. So in this case, it's like you're sending information from yourself to the intended receiver, and you will never get information back. So that is simplex. So simplex types of communication, if, for instance, your company actually uses a simplex type of communication, you're sure you will get less or very little attempts of your information being hacked. Because if it's going one way, an attacker will not get a lot of information from it. Yeah, because they are getting a one-sided kind of the story. Yeah. So then we have what we call the half duplex that allows information to be sent in two directions, but not at the same time. Yeah. So in this case, it actually prompts the attackers to want and get your information. But what deters them is the aspect of waiting or the timeliness. Remember, in this case, if you're using a half duplex, the information coming from you to the other person and from the other person to you will ideally be timely because you're waiting for it. Yeah. So if it takes a week, yeah, for you to get the information, in your case, it becomes timely. But if it were to take a week and it delays, then that becomes an issue. But for an attacker who's trying to attack your information that is half duplex, that means they'll have to be, for instance, in your systems for a longer time, yeah, which increases their chances of being ideally caught or them making a mistake or something, yeah. So it becomes juicy than a simplex type of communication, but it poses risks to attackers, and depending on the type of information that they are trying to intercept or hack, then it deters them because for them it's ideally not timely, yeah. Then the third aspect will be a duplex kind of computer communication. And in this case, we are saying it allows information to be sent in two directions at the same time. So you're getting and you're receiving, you're getting and you're receiving. Meaning, if an attacker gets wind of your systems or your network, yeah, he only needs to stay there for the shortest time possible for them to get a lot of information and leave, yeah. So this becomes very juicy for an attacker who wants to basically intercept your information, and ideally do whatever they want to do with it, yeah. So ICT or communication nowadays, yeah, has brought the aspect of duplex kind of communication, yeah, where today you want something, I only need seconds to send it to you and I get your feedback, yeah. I send it to someone else and they get their feedback in a very short span of time, yeah, because it's going in two directions. So it becomes easier for them because it's timely, yeah. And they can be in your systems in a very short time, and after that, they actually live with whatever they want, yeah. The third aspect of the terminology in ICT is technology, yeah. Basically, technology is the scientific knowledge, experience, and resources to create processes, to create or process products that fulfill human needs, yeah. So ideally, anything that you will use, any scientific knowledge or experience or resource, yeah. And we're gonna see different aspects of technology in terms of knowledge of what we say, for instance, cloud computing or emerging technologies such as quantum computing, yeah. Then experiences and resources such as now the machines that we're using, the physical internet that we're using to connect ideally. So they help us fulfill the human needs. And in this case, human needs not only need to be information, but we're gonna see some things like Internet of Things, where we can automate our houses, we can automate our vehicles, we can automate different aspects that will help us basically get the needs that we want, yeah. And we are saying in this case, technology is actually vital in communication. So we're gonna see how the revolution from the industrial age to the second industrial age, which is the technological era, yeah, how it has basically affected the way we live, the way we communicate, what information do we share from one point to the other, and all, yeah. So there are different types of technology. And in this case, we are saying an example is artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence is the usage of computers or technology to enhance that which we used to do manually, yeah. A very good example is Siri, yeah, for those of us who use iOS phones. We have Google Assistant for those of us who use Android phones. We have the infamous ChatGPT that blew up the industry in mid late 2022. And its idea helped us automate the processes that we had to sit down and do a whole research of whatever you wanted to do for a whole week. You can do it in a matter of seconds. Yeah, so that's technology. We have information technology, what we are ideally using right now to pass information from one point to the other, that is telecommunication systems. Yeah, so be it phones, be it our gadgets that we are using right now, we are using Zoom. Yeah, all these are part of technology. We have space technology. Space technology includes technology such as GPS. Yeah, satellites, where you're actually given information from one point to the other. You actually even told where and how is the traffic like of where you want to go, and it also changes for you the route depending on which is the fastest route to actually take from where you are, the less congested and all. So that becomes space technology that we use. It basically helps us fulfill our human needs. Then we have the entertainment technology. Right now we have 3D animations. We have movies that are actually coming up in the internet entertainment technology. We're actually having people now sharing more of their content in terms of technology through entertainment, through technologies such as YouTube, Instagram, TikTok is actually coming up in the entertainment sector and all this actually revolutionizing how we used to live. We actually get to interact with people more virtually than we used to back in the day. Then we have medical technology, yeah, and an example of this will be robotic surgery. In a case where surgeons ideally had to take a lot of hours to do a surgery, can be automated right now very easily and with very few inclusions to it. Yeah. Then we have operational technology, and this is technology that is used in plants. Yeah. To maybe push conveyor belts, to ideally ensure they stamp, they wrap, yeah, they shape things into different forms. Basically, these are softwares that control industry equipment. Yeah. Then we have communication technology. So that is ideally virtual assistants. We have Wi-Fi that helps us do communication. We have Bluetooth. We have the internet, be it physical or not. So all these are part of technology that ideally come in hand in the composition of the whole ICT aspect. So what are some of the objectives? Yeah, and in this case, we are saying one of the objectives of ICT or information technology is to monitor and control access of confidential information. Yeah. So remember, when we were trying to explain back, we said the transition from where we were to where we are was actually led by things such as completeness, accuracy, and timely. Yeah. So confidentiality is brought about by the aspect of accuracy. Yeah. How do we ensure that this information is ideally accurate and no one has read it once it comes from point A to point B? And that is what now ICT comes to give us. Yeah. Then safe transmission of data from point A to point B is another aspect. Then the third aspect is how do we securely store and dispose of data? Yeah. How do we ensure that the information that is not supposed to land to unauthorized eyes or persons or personnel ends up just that way? And ICT came up to ensure that that is actually possible. Yeah. Then supervision of electronic communication is another aspect. What do we share? so that at the end of the day, we do not use communication or electronic communication for bad things such as maybe terrorism. Yeah, we don't do it for bad things such as exploiting children through child pornography, cyberbullying. Yeah, what most of us Kenyans actually call KOT. Yeah, if you look at it from a cybersecurity perspective, that is ideally cyberbullying. Yeah. Then the other objective will be enhancing of innovation and capacity in IT. Yeah. So each and every time we'd want to ensure we pick up things, we will want to go back and try to understand it from the aspect of where did we come from? Yeah. Where are we and where do we want to be? And what tools can we use from where we are and where we want to be that will help us ideally get whatever we want to do. Yeah. So that is what we ideally call innovation, sorry. Yeah. Daily usage of ICT in different aspects, in different sectors. Right now in the public sector, I know here we are from different aspects, and I want to believe at one point or the other, be it at work or be it personally in your homes, you have ideally used ICT or IT infrastructure. And in this case, sharing and communicating of information, ideally from one person to the other. Most of us, if not all of us, use either email, we either use phone calls, we either use WhatsApp, yeah. So some of those things. Then finding information becomes easier. Back then, whereas we depended on hearsay, ideally, I get to learn, then I tell it to someone, then they tell it to someone, where now information now passes through whatever we call hearsay. And if I wanted to bring in information that was not, or information that was not legit, in this case, now we will, ICT basically helps us get that information. You don't need to take information from me 100%. I can only be a source of hinting. I tell you this can happen and this cannot happen. Then you go online, you go to Google and you find information for yourself and make decisions for yourself. Yeah, you actually go to ChatGPT and Keeper.ai and you understand ideally what information you're getting, and you can do it for yourself. Yeah, and you can make personalized decision from the information that you get ideally online. Yeah. Then ideally how to handle data. Yeah. In Kenya right now we have Office of the Data Protection. Yeah. Office of the Data Protection Rights that was enacted in 2018 and started working in 2019. Yeah, that dictates how different companies, different institutions basically handle data. So for us in the public sector, we cannot handle data the way we used to handle back then, because right now we have mechanisms on how to ensure data is actually handled, how is it stored, who can access it. And in a case where that information is basically leaked or breached, there are consequences to it. Yeah, a very good example of handling data in this case will be we're gonna also look at it in a few. We have the aspect of ransomware attacks. We're gonna learn what ransomware attacks ideally are. So we actually had that KAA, Kenya Airports Authority, was hacked. I think it was around in February or early March. Yeah. From there, Jubilee Insurance also got hacked. From there, we had stories of Naivas. yeah, getting hacked and information being publicized. Yeah. So ICT comes up and issues, whatever I was telling you, issues of ethical issues comes up. And with ICT in this form, it gives us the knowledge of how do we ensure the information of people that we have, yeah, is one, safe, two, is available if anyone wants to get it, and three, it cannot, it's ideally confidential. It cannot land to the hands of the people who do not ideally need to use that information. Yeah. Then the fourth aspect of it is to simulate or model events. Yeah. Right now, with the technological advancements that we have, we might not be able to need to be there physically. Yeah. For instance, we do not need to be in a physical room for us to ideally have this meet up and training and teach other, but we can simulate the aspect of all of us being at one point at the same time, and we can share knowledge. Yeah. Basically, we can simulate and model these events. When we get to emerging technologies, we're gonna see what we call the metaverse. Yeah. So I know we have heard of metaverse. We're gonna demystify what that is, but that's also a way of simulating or modeling events that will now have a more digital touch to the physical aspects that we have. Yeah. And that is one of the things that we might at the end of the day end up using. So you don't need to travel all the way to Europe, and maybe you have things to do in Kenya for you to ensure that you attend a meeting. You can do it from wherever we are. Then control devices. Right now we have self-driving vehicles, yeah, which are a buzz. We have vehicles that can park themselves parallel in a parking spot, which is ideally hard for people to for some of us to ideally do. So controlling of devices is actually another daily usage. We're going to talk about Internet of Things as we continue, which is an emerging technology, and ideally how information technology and communication has helped build up the Internet of Things technology, and it ideally helps us actually in our daily lives. Yeah. So there are different aspects of it. Examples like in education sector, we are talking about computers, tablets, Zoom like we're using, YouTube, Google, that you can use for educational purposes. In the banking sector, we have mobile banking, we have web banking, we have accounting services, whatever we shall see. CAAT, computer aided auditing tools for those of us in the banking sector, for instance. The industrial sector or the manufacturing sector, we're talking about things like production planning and control softwares, chain management systems that are actually coming up to just automate that process and make it easier, and product design at the end of the day. Then we have e-commerce, yeah, for those of us who are into buying and selling, yeah, different aspects. E-commerce comes to help us in such a way that you do not need to be physically at a place where you're going to buy and sell. Right now we have Instagram being used to actually buy and sell things, and you only need to buy it, then someone sends it to another place where you pick it and you run with it at the end of the day. Yeah. So this is also a daily usage that we can look to explore and ensure that we foster more of the e-commerce aspects and we come away from whatever we used to do, like barter trade and the physical markets where we had to wait for Fridays to ideally go and buy something that we wanted to use on Monday. Yeah. Then what is ideally the difference between computerized systems and non-computerized systems? Yeah. So to this point, we have seen the transition of where we were pre-technology, where we are during this technological phase, and ideally how it has affected our lives. Yeah. So computerized systems are more interesting and more interactive, and they give a more interactive experience, especially when it comes to education and all. Yeah, you can learn a lot more from the systems that we have at this moment than when we had non-computerized systems where we depended only on teachers and books. Yeah, and that had a linear way of viewing things, so that if this teacher knew one thing or one line of how to think about things, then they ended up saying that was the right thing to do, or that was the right way to actually learn that one thing. Yeah. But now with the different aspects to it, we can see that there is no one linear way of learning. Yeah. You can learn via listening to people, you can learn via YouTube, you can learn via research and get more information, not only maybe in Kenya, but globally, and also up-to-date information on how these things are actually going. Then all transactions are being done by computers. Most of the transactions nowadays are actually being done by computers, unlike when back then when these transactions were being done manually. Yeah, you had to physically go to the bank, insert your card, get your monies. Yeah, right now all your transactions you can do at the comfort of your home, in your house. Yeah, then from there you pay it via M-Pesa. Yeah, and you get things in your house. Then computers and telecommunications industry became very popular and profitable, since production can be increased through an all-day operation. Yeah, so computerized systems actually helped improve the speed at which things are actually being created, how information is being sent from one person to the other. And to some point, it actually ended up creating job opportunities for people, yeah, from the different aspects of from how they basically related from one person to the other. Yeah. So back then, when production was slow and everything was done by human labor, even communication ideally was done through messengers. Yeah, which was kind of tedious. Then we have e-commerce, which includes distribution, buying, selling, and servicing of products that are done electronically. Yeah, so it reduces the trading aspect, where we had currency systems that was ideally slow, tedious. We had barter trade, where you had to change one good to the other and all. So these are some of the good things that computerized systems through IT or ICT have actually brought up. Yeah. It has also brought up the impacts, different impacts on society, and it has two different aspects. Yeah. It has the good aspects of the positive impact to the society, and it also has the negative impact to society. So, for instance, we now have faster communication and speed, yeah, at this point in time, where you can send an email to your colleague in Uganda, and you get feedback as early as 2 minutes from now, yeah, if they're on their machines. It actually also lowered the communication cost, where you had to ideally buy paper, you had to buy stamps, for instance, you had to move from your office or your place of work be it at home or wherever, and you now go to the poster, you pay for it to go, then it comes back. All that was cost, yeah, which was reduced. It became a reliable mode of communication, yeah. So ICT brought up a reliable mode of communication, such a way that it increased the timeliness, it increased the accuracy, and it increased the completeness of how an information moves from point A to point B. So kindly note that it did not entirely do away with it, yeah, and to some point, it actually raised ethical issues on how this information is now moved, where we are going to talk about cybersecurity and information security, yeah. So it also brought social problems, yeah, problems to do with what are we sharing, yeah. So some ethical issues became easily available that perverse the ethical nature of what we used to have, yeah. It also brought social problems such as now people don't want to physically interact with other people, and they will better interact through social media, what we term as keyboard warriors, yeah. Then there is borderless communication, which is a good aspect of ICT in a case where you can now communicate with someone beyond your borders, yeah, be it in another continent, be it in another country, yeah, becomes very easy and with no restrictions, ideally, on how the communication goes. The only restriction to that will be what communication are you sending from point A to point B, yeah. Then we came to paperless communication, which ideally helped in reducing the overusage of the environmental goods, such as cutting trees and all, for us to do papers, for us to do them. So it actually reduced them drastically, yeah. Then there is effective sharing of information, yeah. Just as we said right now, you don't need to get hearsay information and live with it as the truth, yeah. Right now, you can effectively share information and someone can validate whether your information is ideally good or ideally bad for their consumption, yeah. So those are some of the aspects that actually came up because of ICT in the society, yeah. So we have basically understood, or I'm hoping we have understood ICT and how it has revolutionized the information or the communication from where we were to where we are at this point, yeah. Basically, the good and the bad, yeah. And one of the bad aspects that ICT actually brought in, just as I had earlier alluded to, is the ethical nature of things, yeah. And in this case, we are talking about whereas information was ideally hard to intercept, yeah. Right now, information is very easy to ideally intercept, yeah. There are very many people who are actually taking up the hacking aspect of things in cases where as long as you have a computer and you have a little knowledge on how to Google, you can be what we term as a script kiddie, yeah, in cybersecurity, yeah. So these are some of the things that popped up, yeah, that led us to wherever we are. So remember, we actually said information needed to have 3 aspects for it to be complete, which is timeliness, which ICT ideally brought in, yeah, because you can move information from one point to the other very easily, yeah. Then it ideally brought the aspect of accuracy, whereby the information that is sent from point A is the same exact information that is received at point B, and it's not being altered. Then the information should be complete. No one should ideally get information and remove some aspects of really change the meaning and send it. Yeah. So all these three aspects are what led to the formation of what we call information security or cybersecurity. Yeah. So information security, just as I said, is the umbrella aspects of things, but it only deals with the information aspect of it. Then we have the cybersecurity issue that deals with the hardware and how the information actually moves from point A to point B in what we actually call encryption. Yeah. So what is cybersecurity? So cybersecurity is ideally the practice of defending computers, servers, mobile devices, electronic systems, network systems, and data from malicious attacks. So any practice that you do that will ensure that the physical assets, be it computers, be it servers, be it mobile phones, you name them, are actually prevented from attacks from people who will want to either sabotage them or to either get information from them is what we call cybersecurity. Yeah. It ensures there is confidentiality, integrity, and availability of computing devices and networks, hardware, software, and most importantly, data information. So remember, we actually said the three aspects of information is what will actually lead us to know whether we are either cyber safe or we are not. Yeah, where we needed to have confidentiality. Yeah, we needed to have integrity being brought about by completeness and accuracy. Yeah, and we needed to have timeliness, and which in this case maps to what we are calling availability. So the C, the confidentiality, integrity, and availability forms what we call the CIA triad. Yeah. So we're going to look at it in a bit. Yeah. So the CIA triad is ideally the mechanism by which you actually monitor whether your systems are either cyber secure or cyber safe, or they are not cyber secure or they are not cyber safe. Yeah. So very important to note is cybersecurity is not an island. Yeah, it does not only work on its own for it to function, but it is basically achieved through processes or procedures, products, and people. Yeah. So for you to ensure that you have confidentiality, integrity, and availability, yeah, all these aspects will be affected by the procedures that you take, the products that you take, and the people that you take. What are we saying in this case? The procedures will basically enable. So let me do it again. So you will need, or you have systems. Yeah, these systems, for them to be secure, they will need products, and these products are what we call softwares. Yeah, so we'll use softwares, we'll use other physical devices if there need be, to actually ensure that your systems are, your assets are ideally safe. Yeah, the products in which you acquire or you use, yeah, will need people to operate them. They will ideally need expertise from here and there to ensure that at the end of the day, the information, the products actually using are being used in the right form or in the right format, and they are doing whatever they were supposed to do. Yeah. Then for these people to actually ensure that the products are being used how they're supposed to be used, we actually what we call procedures. And procedures in this case are what we have termed as controls, yeah, be it administrative controls or policies that will govern these people. For instance, what are the password policies in your company? Yeah, are they affecting how your information is actually being transferred from one point to the other? What are the policies regarding what information is being accessed by who and when, what we call segregation of duties? So these are all procedures that people use to ensure that the products that you acquire for the organization will ideally ensure at the end of the day you cyber safe or cyber secure. In cybersecurity, we have different aspects that I feel will be important for you guys to understand if at the end of the day we're gonna understand what cybersecurity is and ideally how we will utilize it in our organization. Yeah. We have what we call assets. Yeah. So an asset is anything that needs to be protected. Yeah. So, and in this case, we are talking about your information from the different public sectors is an asset to your organization. Yeah. Your computer systems. Yeah. Be it your servers, be it your desktops, wherever you work on, the machines or the phones that are connected to the internet, what we call voice over IP. Your mobile phones, yeah, that you use to share information from one point to the other. Your tablets that you use at home, yeah, and you give your kids to play with. All these are assets that you will need to protect, yeah. So be it services. So some of us actually use the different services in our places of work, such as websites, ideally, or systems that we use to either share money, share documents like EDMSs, electronic document sharing, document management sharing systems, and all. So all these services that we have, be it physical, be it virtual, be it the information, is what we call an asset. Yeah. Then we have what we call a threat. Yeah. So a threat is a potential for violation of security. Yeah. So it basically exists where there is a circumstance, a capability, an action, or an event that could breach the security and cause harm. So ideally, any aspect, be it a person, yeah, be it a system, be it lack thereof procedures and policies, yeah, that have been set in your organization that can be used to ideally cause harm to any information or any asset, yeah, becomes a threat. So a threat can be a person, yeah. So and in this case, if we're talking about persons, we shall understand what in security terms we actually call the term where we say your security is as strong as your weakest link, and most of the time, human beings are the weakest link in any security posture. Why are we saying this? They are the biggest threat, yeah, to your organization because one, we are empathetic, or we have feelings, yeah, and these feelings will ideally change from one point to the other depending on how are we feeling when we come to work, yeah. How do I feel towards my employer or my boss ideally, yeah. So that in a case where another employer comes in and tells me, give me, kindly go access information from your systems of the newest product that you guys are about to launch, and I'll give you 20 million of the money that we make. or 20% of the money that we make. Yeah. So yesterday, this person might have been very good and they might have been employee of the month 3 months in a row. And at the end of the day, they come and they do something to cause harm. Yeah. Other people in what we call, we shall understand what we call phishing. Yeah. You unknowingly click on a link that you thought it was a coupon for you to enjoy maybe free lunch in KFC, or a discount on that thing that you wanted to buy. And at the end of the day, you click on it, and that link is what causes harm to your organization. Yeah. So that becomes a threat. Yeah. A system that maybe you're using, or a product that you're using that is not well patched. Yeah. It has what we call vulnerabilities, or it has the potential of violation. Yeah. Then becomes a threat. Yeah. So we actually only saying it is a possible danger that might exploit a vulnerability. And we're going to see what a vulnerability is in a minute. Yeah. A threat is anyone or anything that wants to do harm or to do harms to an asset. Then we have what we call vulnerability. So vulnerability is either a flaw or a weakness in the design or implementation of an asset, which could be utilized by a threat or a threat agent. Yeah. So if you have any weaknesses, for instance, you guys don't have a password for your systems or for your computer back at home, or you have a weak password, yeah, that becomes a vulnerability. Yeah. If maybe your systems admin did not configure the server well, and they left default credentials being used to actually access the resources that you want to do, for instance, the server, then that becomes a vulnerability. Yeah. So in case you actually bought maybe printers, yeah, Cisco printers from Cisco being a vendor, and the printers are actually running software that has issues or weaknesses that can be used by a threat agent to exploit, then that becomes a vulnerability. If you're running systems and they have open ports, yeah, that are not using, then that means there are open doors for people to get into your network, and from the network get into your systems, be it your desktops, be it your laptops, be it your phones and all. Yeah. Then poor backup strategy becomes a vulnerability, because the day that you actually hacked, or the day that your information is basically compromised and you cannot be able to continue with the business, then that becomes a flaw or a weakness in the design or the implementation of the asset. Yeah. So a very good example for this would be the cases that we mentioned of the companies that were hacked using ransomware. Yeah. So if they didn't have good backup strategy, yeah, then it will be nearly impossible for them to continue. And maybe at the end of the day, they might have closed the businesses. Yeah. Because I know ideally what happened to all the three companies is the information was what we call encrypted, or it was locked, and they could not be able to access the information. Yeah. So that means the information as at that point becomes null and void, and your business goes to a standstill. Yeah. You cannot do anything else from there. Yeah. Then poor coding will be another instance of vulnerability. So we have what we call secure development life cycle, yeah, SDLC, that ensures we have the security aspects to each and everything that we do whenever we are coding. Yeah? So code can actually be points of Sorry? Oh, sawa. So code can actually be points of vulnerability, flaws or weaknesses that people can ideally use to compromise your systems. Yeah.
Hello, madam. Mimi nimefika kitambo sasa.
So thank you. So yeah, ideally coding, or what we call code, is the computer language, yeah, that is used to create the applications that we use. Yeah, just the way we do English, and we have a structure of how English should be in terms of nouns, verbs, and all. Computers also have their language in what we call code. Yeah. So for anyone who maybe didn't understand what coding is, we have what we call an exploit. So an exploit is any software or tool that is intentionally used to take advantage of a vulnerability on an asset. Yeah. So any software, tool, or behavior I can add that can be used to ideally take advantage of a system or all is what we term as an exploit. So we have what an example of it will be Metasploit. So Metasploit is a very good one that people use, or hackers will ideally use, to try and compromise your systems. Yeah. Now they'll use Metasploit to try and target the vulnerabilities in your system so that they can ideally get access. They can use Offcrack, they can use Nmap. Yeah. So these are just tools that attackers use to ideally compromise your system. Then we have risks. So risk is basically what we term as the probability of a threat to take advantage of a vulnerability on an asset and cause harm. Yeah. So just the probability or the possibility that the threat will take harm is called a risk. Yeah. And in this case, we are trying to see from what aspects or what harm, what is the degree of the harm in your organization. Yeah. So is it the risk of losing data? That will be one. Yeah. Is there the risk of personal photo collection? For instance, maybe in your phone you have this collection of photos that you have been keeping for the past 10 years, and someone ideally deletes them or do some, or corrupt them ideally. Yeah? The risk of you losing your banking data. Basically, we're just saying what will be the impact of you losing your data, you losing your personal photo collection, or you using your banking data to you as an individual or as an organization. Yeah. So when we will be talking or diving deeper into cybersecurity, we're going to talk about something we call the risk matrix. So this will ideally help you guys in the different public sectors that you are, to try and figure out what is the most probable threat to us, and what can we do so that we ensure that we curb all of them and we do not overspend, yeah, on one aspect and spend very less on another aspect. Yeah. So that is what we will be calling the risk matrix that organizations ideally use to ensure that even though they have security features embedded, how do we ensure that we do not go overboard in terms of the resources or in terms of the money for the cybersecurity aspects that we ideally are getting, yeah, or are implementing in our systems. Then from there we have an attack. An attack basically is an assault on the system security. that derives from an intelligent threat that violates the security policy of a system. Yeah. So after, in this case, an attacker has gotten the vulnerability, they have gotten an exploit that they can use on that vulnerability. They have valued the risk. Yeah, meaning if, for instance, they get your information, you'll have to pay them more. Yeah, then that ideally can be used now to perform an attack, to ideally attack you now or hack you at the end of the day. Yeah. So there are different types of attacks, which we call the cybersecurity attacks. Yeah. Examples will be denial of service, will be data breaches, will be physical destruction, whereby someone can ideally attack you and delete all your data. That becomes destruction. Someone can ideally hack you and cause you switch off your fan so that your machine overheats and it burns the motherboard, for instance. Yeah. So all these are examples of physical destruction. Yeah. Then we have what we call mitigation controls and prevention controls. So these are just policies, technologies, or procedures that reduce the risk of an attack. Yeah. So mitigation controls ideally ensure that when you're attacked, the risk or the impact is the risk or the impact is actually low. Yeah. And here we shall look about aspects such as preventive controls, detective controls, corrective controls that are coupled with either administrative for people, technological for tech, and all. Yeah. Then we have the prevention control. So these are just tools and services that act as the first line of defense. Yeah. So whenever you have an attack in your organization, these controls or these systems that you might have put become the first line of defense, where they are the first aspects to be attacked. Yeah. And in this case, they can lower the risk, they can deter the attack, or they can alert you earlier on before the attack becomes exponential to you. Yeah. And you end up losing more data or more information or something. So we're going to discuss this, and some of the aspects that we're going to discuss are firewalls. We're going to discuss issues such as intrusion detection systems. We're going to discuss issues towards secure coding as prevention controls and all. Yeah. So I hope that makes sense up to that. Then we have the importance of cybersecurity ideally. So in this case, we are trying to look at why do we need to include cybersecurity in our daily lives, be it in our systems or whatever. So back in the day, we had non-computerized systems, then technology came and we picked computerized systems. Yeah. And they ideally helped us because they improved the aspects of timeliness, accuracy, and completeness. Yeah. But they also opened up loopholes for people to come up with unethical issues or unethical ways of intercepting people's data, stealing their money and all, that led to cybersecurity. So those aspects are the same that are making us say cybersecurity is important at this time and date in our organizations than ever before. Yeah. In cases where we're actually saying cybersecurity is important in the forms of threat detections. Yeah. So in this case, yes, we might not identify all the threats, yeah, coming into our company, but we can always detect, yeah, and put in measures that will ensure that even though we are ideally attacked or hacked, yeah, the risk becomes less than if we would have been attacked if we did not have cybersecurity issues. So kindly note that as we continue, one aspect that you need to understand as at now is you are never going to be 100% cyber secure. Yeah, be it in your organization, be it in your daily life, it's virtually impossible for you to be 100% secure. Yeah, there is that one aspect, yeah, that will at the end of the day cause you to be hacked. Yeah, and from a security perspective, we always say you're gonna be hacked at one point or the other. Yeah, so especially if your organization that deals with information of people or money or products that people will want, at one point in time, you're gonna be attacked. So the easiest way to actually ensure that when this attack comes is to ensure that you are cyber safe and you have what we call threat detection mechanisms to ensure that you get the alert earlier. Yeah. So it's more of a preventive measure, yeah, than a curative measure. Yeah. So there are aspects where you cure, yeah, but mostly like 98% of cybersecurity is basically prevention and detection, ideally. Yeah. So threat detection ideally helps detect threats that a company might be prone to. Yeah. So here, cybersecurity helps you see where are the loopholes in my company. Yeah. Is it from the people side? Is it from the organizational side? Is it from the administrative side? Is it from the policies that we have created? Is it from the third-party vendors that we are bringing in that we can be attacked? Then from that and with that information, you can ideally create a way to ensure that the information is ideally safe for consumption, not only for you, but also for your client or the clients with which you are working, with whom you're working with or for. Yeah. So yeah, the second aspect will be vulnerability management. So with the advancements in technology, yeah, there are different aspects that will always be coming up in terms of vulnerabilities. Yeah, points in which people or tools can exploit. Ideally, they can get and try to hack you through them. Yeah. So cybersecurity helps you manage these vulnerabilities from the different areas. Yeah. So we have something that we call a zero-day attack. So a zero-day means it's a vulnerability that has cropped up that has never been seen before. Yeah. So it's something basically new. And cybersecurity helps you get those new things before your attackers get them, and they can use them in a wrong way. Yeah. Then we have cybersecurity helps protect sensitive and personal information. Yeah. So the Office of the Data Protection Rights that was created in 2019, enacted in 2019, actually dictates that if you're a company that uses or consumes any personal data of people, then it is your sole mandate to ensure that this information is private and secure. Yeah. If not, there is a very nice penalty, can't say huge, a nice penalty that they will ideally give to people or persons who misuse people's data. Yeah. And to some point, I feel like it's with the growth of the data protection rights and acts as they are coming up, government buildings or the buildings where we end up asking people to write their names and their phone numbers and their ID numbers, that is ideally personal identifiable information for that person. Yeah, will end up having more issues. Yeah, because if let's say any person from the Office of the Data Protection Rights actually comes in and they're asking, where does this information go? Who consumes it? Why do you keep it open for anyone and everyone to actually get it? Then you might end up with an issue. And that's why ICT comes in and cybersecurity comes in to ensure that we move from the system of having people to write down their information, coming up with systems where they can key in this information in a system, and it's ideally secure and can be used for reference whenever someone wants to reference it. Yeah. Then there is the protection of private and business data, which is also a mandate or an importance of cybersecurity. Then improving productivity. So when we talk about cybersecurity, we're going to discuss aspects of an attack like denial of service, yeah, or a distributed denial of service. We're going to talk about ransomware, and all these kind of either degrade the services that what one might be giving online, or two, they might ensure that there is a hold to the business activities that are actually happening. And at the end of the day, you end up not being productive, or the business stopping because of the attacks. So if you have cybersecurity in your organization, then it ensures there is business continuity, and there is also improved productivity of the business side on what you do. And this is coupled with the aspect of once your stakeholders actually have trust in you that you can deliver and you can ensure that the information is safe and it's ideally used for their benefit. At the end of the day, they trust you more, they give you more assets that you might require, and your business productivity continues because of the cybersecurity issue, or the cybersecurity aspect that you have included in the organization and all. Then it provides a business continuity plan. Yeah, just as we've said, for your business to ensure that it works well at the end of the day, you need to have what we call a business continuity plan. Yeah, and a business continuity plan, in this case, helps us ensure that once we are hacked, so remember we said at one point in time, you're going to be hacked. Yeah. So if, for instance, that happens today, yeah, does the business stop? Not really. If you had a good cybersecurity structure in your company, it will give you a leeway on how do you ensure that the business continues to run as it should be, while we mitigate the issues that have actually led to where we are at the moment, using the mitigation controls that we have just discussed about in a few. Yeah. Then it ideally improves the overall security of the organization. So at the end of it all, cybersecurity does not only help improve the security of the information and the assets, but it also improves the security of the buildings in what we actually, the physical security of, be it the buildings, be it the premises and all. Yeah. because we are going to a point where we are now using keycards. Yeah. So keycards is basically a technological aspect because there is the storage of that information on the keycard aspect. Yeah. We have organizations at this moment using cameras. Yeah. And these cameras transfer information from one point to the other, yeah, that can be used, and that's all ICT. And if we have cybersecurity aspects protecting those cameras, protecting those keys, will ideally improve the overall security structure of the organization. Yeah. Yes. So I think we can take a break at this point because I can see from the schedule there is a break. Then we can continue after this on now a little bit of the cybersecurity fundamentals, identifying common cyber threats and all before we finish. I hope that's fine, Simon.
You can hear me, David?
Yes, I can.
Fantastic. Thank you. I think that was an awesome session, and I am agreeing with you. We can take a break, maybe 30 minutes. How long do you think is okay for our delegates?
I think 30 will be fine, so that they can at least grab a cup of tea if they want. Then we continue.
Fantastic. So let's grab a cup of tea or a snack, and then we can come back at exactly 12:20 thereabout. Then we proceed. And I think 30 minutes is okay for a break.
Yes, so maybe we say we meet at 11:40.
11:30. No, not 11. Yeah, 11. Oh yeah, sorry. I think I did not get my timing correct. It's 11:30 right now, so we can meet at around 11:30 or 11:40 thereabout. Between 11:30 and 11:40 to be okay, so that we start at exactly 11:40.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yes, thank you.